everyone, and welcome to our September online event, the Global Business Impact Summit 2021, bringing together professionals who share their experience and strategic advice on three main topics, which are enterprise architecture, business process management, and governance, risk and compliance. All the presentation will be available on our website as on-demand webinars. These webinars will help you in managing successfully your current and future digital transformation challenges. Advice, practical tips, and case solutions from experts will definitively enhance your skills. Today's webinar is part of the series dedicated to business process management. Joséphine Joannick, Internal Controller and System Manager at Suez, will speak about the importance of modeling and access rights conventions in a multi-site business context. She will share with us best practices to establishing a common business repository in a federated environment. The two voices you will hear today are those of Joséphine and mine. Let me introduce myself. My name is Marina Vial, and I'm responsible for the commercial activities for the French subsidiary of the BOC. I will be your host today. Hello, Joséphine.
Hello, Marina.
Hello, it's a real pleasure to welcome you to this session today. Joséphine, before I let you continue, let me please present the key elements of the presentation to our audience. First, you will explain us why and how you agreed in your company to use a common modeling standard to manage individual management system in a multi-site business context. Then, you will tell us how Adonis is used to implement common conventions in a very heterogeneous business environment. And finally, you will share with us the best practices you relied on to successfully implement this project. So, enough talk on my side. Joséphine, you can start your presentation and the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Marina. Hello, everybody. I'm Joséphine. I'm part of the group Suez for 10 years now. I'm part of the Internal Control and Management System Department. Just to introduce a little bit the group for people who doesn't know Suez, we are a French group working on 5 continents. We are more than 80,000 people inside the group working for water and waste services. You can see on this slide that we have different fields of activities. We have engineering, design and construction of treatment and waste and water treatment plants, for example. We are operating this kind of plants. We have also activities on collection, on sanitation. We do produce drinking water. We do work in different ways of water and waste. So just this page finally to explain you that we have a big group on 5 continents, on many different countries, many different entities. Legal entities can represent more than 1,000 entities inside the group, and it is you can understand quite well, it is quite difficult to implement a management system and to look for a tool that could fit our requirements. Enough about Suez. Let's talk about the management system implementation. In terms of schedule, I wanted to replace, I would say, our objectives inside the TEM. If you can see on this page, we have different phases. The first one was finally not about the management system. It was about the internal control, because we are part of the internal control and management system department. We have in between 2018 and 2020 implement a new approach of the internal control, a new strategy, and the new tool implementation have been done. In this context, we have decided and we have noticed with many discussions with many of our sites, entities, business units, organization, etc., we have noticed that internal control needed a management system, needed processes to be able to identify the risks and the control to mitigate those risks. And that's why we have started in 2020 to look for a new tool for our management system, to try to have a tool to harmonize our rules, to harmonize our practices, to harmonize our activities and the way of operating them. During this period, we have identified Adonis as the tool that could fit our requirements. So we have implemented in 2020 this tool. We have called it ProcessUp in Suez, but finally we are talking about Adonis and the standard solution of Adonis. In this context and in this project, we have taken at that moment two different levels of the organization. The first one was the group level, because we really need a tool to model and share our processes. We had another entity that we called Suez International that was already having a management system quite mature, and we needed at that moment an operational entity to be a pilot for the implementation of this tool. In the next years, obviously, we are going to deploy and implement the tool everywhere inside the group in all other organizations of Suez. Just to come back on this context and to make you understand exactly why we had a lot of challenges behind this project. The first one is the organization itself. We are working in 5 different continents. We have many activities. We have many businesses. We have many people, many culture, many management system. As you can imagine, when we are in a group such Suez, we have some rules that are shared at the group level for all the entities that are finally applicable for everybody. And we have also some dedicated management system for some activities, for some organization, for some countries, sometimes for some sites. So at different level of the organization, we can find some management system. And it was the biggest challenge we had to fulfill in the implementation of our tool. It was to match with all the requirements of all the entities to be able to imagine this tool to be now the management system tool for the whole group. So you have understand that in this diversity of businesses, management system, countries, multi-sites, we needed a strong tool first, but we needed also to define some rules to be followed by everybody, to be sure that we were going to have a tool to fit with the requirements of everybody. In this context, I will explain to you what choices we have made. But once again, it's the choices we have made at Suez level according to our organization. It's an example. It's not the way of all entities, all groups, all BOC clients may have to implement their management system. That is just the way we have chosen to do so. The first question we have asked is how to make all the entities, all the organization working in the same environment. The repository organization, we have decided since the beginning to have only one repository, one environment. Why? Because we wanted for everybody to have a view on everything. So we have done this choice, and to make this choice happened, we have decided at that moment to say, okay, we have one environment that we are going to model exactly as the organization of the group is, because we wanted everybody to find themselves inside the system. The other decision we have taken at that moment is to have only one IT team to manage the administration of the tool. Now we are going to focus on the users and access right management, because of course, if we have only one environment, we want everybody to be able to access to this single environment. To do so, we have taken a few decisions. The first decision, and one really important for us, was for all readers to be able to see everything. Why? First, because we are, as said a little bit before, we are more than 80,000 people inside the group. We cannot manage access rights people by people. So we needed to to implement a rule that was easy to manage. And everybody knows that access right is not the easiest thing to manage when we are working with tools. Behind this first choice to give access to all collaborators as readers and to be able to have a look on all the content at all levels of the organization, we have defined a set of roles common for all the organization, common for all designers will have exactly the same role when they are part of the group Suez or when they are part of an entity in Australia, in India, or in North America. In the same way, and of course, these designers have the rights in creation and modification only on their organization. We all agree that these kind of designers can access and read everything, all the content, but can modify or create only on their dedicated organization. In the same way, we have a role that we call business process owner, the one, the users that have to validate the models, validate the documents, etc. These people, in the same way of the designers, have the right to validate only on their organization. But they have the right to access and to consult the full organization. And we have the third specific role that we have created that we have called super users, who are finally the management system reference, because we have management system coordinator, reference, director everywhere inside the group at different levels of the organization. And we needed them to be able to manage their own content. At the group level, in my department, we are in charge of the coherence of the management system. So we have some rights and we have the visibility on everything. We are the one to be able to give the access or the right to the super users, and after the super users can validate who is going to be a BPO and a designer within his organization. In all this part of the access right management, one thing was really important, is to have only one single IT team to manage the access right management. If not, it would have been too complicated. So remember, in this single environment to manage people, we have defined one common set of roles. We have defined that everybody could read all the contents, wherever they come from, wherever they have been created. And we have only one single IT team to manage all the access rights management. But at the same time, if you understood well what I've explained just there, is that the IT team manage only access right for specific roles, not for the readers. The readers, everybody can access as an access with an SSO connection. Okay, so that it was really important to define the way we have managed collaborators, the access to the tool to make this happen. Finally, to have this repository, this single environment to work everybody in the same environment. Last point, and not the smallest one, is about how to manage model, how to manage objects, how to manage documents inside one environment when we share this single environment between almost 80,000 people. It was important to define quickly different rules, not to be too strict, but to be at least clear with everybody, for people to be able to understand where they are inside the system, how to manage for the super users in the different management system to know exactly how they were going to manage their documentation, etc. How we have done really easily. We have tried anyway since the beginning to do things as easy as we could. So we have defined a rule for models, for documents, and for objects. For models and documents, as you can see, the first part of the name of the models and the documents start with an organization prefix. The second part is the organization codification, and the third part is the title. Why we have done that? Because the organization prefix is defined at the beginning of the implementation of the management system for the organization. At that moment, we are going to define which prefix the organization will take. I will give you an example. For the group, we have taken a prefix really simple, is group. For another entity, we have taken TI for treatment infrastructure. Okay, so we have taken one prefix for one organization. The advantage of this is to be able to make some filters, to be able, with the MODA module, to create some reports and to make some filters with this kind of organization. So for all this reason, it was really important for us to start our codification with this single rule, the organization prefix. The second part of the title of the codification is the organization codification. At the moment, you can imagine that in a group like Suez, we have many different organizations with many different management systems. They have not waited for us at the group level to implement this kind of tool to have their own management system. So their own management systems means their own codification. We didn't want to change the codification for all the entities. It was too complicated. So that's why we have given to all the organization the right to use their own codification and to keep their own codification. In this way, they have a link between now, the implementation of this new tool, and the past with their management system. And of course, the title is the title of the model or the documents. We have done that for models, for documents, and we have chosen to do that also for objects. For objects, because it was necessary when you have this kind of group. If I take the example of roles, HR manager or procurement manager, etc., exist within all the organization of Suez. We needed to make some difference. So we have created also objects with organization prefix. Be careful, one condition in this way of working with codification, with this organization prefix, the first one is you have to define the organization prefix at the beginning of the implementation inside the tool. And the second one is you don't change it in the middle of the year. If you change it, you have to change it everywhere. And for all models, documents, and objects. So you can lose some organization if you change that. So be clear, one organization prefix at the beginning. For the rest, everything can be managed locally. To finish this presentation, finally, as you have seen, it was not that complicated for us to implement this kind of tool in a single repository environment. Even with this kind of organization, it was quite simple because we have defined our rules at the beginning and since the beginning. What advantage and benefits and best practices we're going to see that. One single environment. The objective for us was to give the access to everybody. So the same access for all using the single sign-on to be able to get connected. The second objective was to be able to share practices. You can imagine that in this kind of environment, when every collaborator of the group can access to every content of the group, you can imagine that some entities that are less mature than others can take advantage and take example on the one a little bit more mature. You can also imagine that when some models have been created in Australia and could be applicable for another country, why created a new one when you can use something already made? So it's all that kind of advantage we see and we wanted to highlight when we have decided to have one single environment. The other advantage was to involve everybody, because we have started our management system. The first portal is an organization portal. Everybody can find his way inside the organization, but everybody can also go to another country, to another organization, to another businesses, to other activities, etc., to find some information. Other advantage of this environment, this single environment, one set of roles, the same configuration for all. The time we have taken working with BOC group teams in the implementation of the tool for a group like Suez could have been multiplied by as many management systems we had. We didn't want to go in this direction. We wanted to optimize the time for the implementation of the tool. So that's why we have decided to have the same rules inside the tool for everybody. When you have an environment for the group, an environment for different entities that can define their own rules, everybody can go in different direction. For us, inside one single environment, everybody will work the same way. Another advantage is the easy access right management. We have only one IT team in charge of the access rights management, and we are managing finally only the specific profiles, only the specific roles, the designers, the BPOs, and the super users. For the readers, it's the same for everybody. Everybody can access, everybody can see everything. Much easier than trying to manage the access right management for 80,000 people. And last point about the codification, we wanted to make easier the navigation for the users. We have considered, and with the experience we have in management system, we know that more complicated is the management system, less people are going in. So if we wanted to make easier the organization inside our management system, we had to find the solutions to make the codification easier. And this organization prefix gives you the opportunity anytime you open a model, a document, or an object, you use an object, you can see where it comes from, where it belongs to. And the last point, we wanted to limit binding rules. We didn't want, it's complicated to implement a management system globally within a group organization like Suez, but it is just about size I'm talking about. If you make and provide difficulties to the collaborators that are involved in the implementation, you lose them. The objective for us was to make things easy, especially when you have some collaborators, some super users, some management system referents that are already managing management system, and they don't want to change everything in their system. So when we have told them that we were not going to touch or take any decisions on their codification, we wanted only an organizational prefix at the beginning of their codification and titles, they said that it was much easier. So finally, to conclude a little bit on this, this way of working and way of implementation our Adonis tool within Suez, the key points is the anticipation. We took time at the beginning of the implementation of the tool. We took time with discussion within the group, but also with the BOC group team to discuss, to have some to make some challenges, to know exactly what we wanted, where we wanted to go, what direction we wanted to take, and with these small decisions we have taken, we have made much easier the implementation of the management system and this tool.
Great. Thank you, Joséphine. Thanks a lot for this presentation. I think it was very helpful for our customers, but also more generally for Adonis users. Also, of course, a big thank you to our audience for taking time in joining us today. If you would like to try out or our BPM tool Adonis or any other of our solution, you can consult our website and the registration page. Or, of course, you can also contact us via email if you have any question related to Joséphine's presentation or more generally about our solutions. If you liked this webinar, please subscribe to the upcoming webinars, which you can see just now on this slide. If you missed one of the past webinars, it's not an issue. All the webinars of the Global Business Impact Summit 2021 are on-demand webinar and can be watched at any time. We also invite you to keep in touch with us. So if you have not already done so, then please sign up for our newsletter to learn more about our solutions, about our services and events at the BOC Group. Thanks again, Joséphine, for joining us, for your participation, and goodbye.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Bye, Joséphine.
Bye.